Welcome back, everyone, to Data Science for Everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at utilizing APIs and asynchronous JavaScript. Let's get started. So first off, let's go on and create up our basic HTML, and let's go on and give it something like API tourism example. And so we're going to be utilizing some tourism API today. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to have a website. Okay, so let's make an H2 here, and we're going to call it the best of. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to have this data set, and actually I can pull up the data set for you really quickly here so that you can see it. Pull this on right on over here, and I'll keep this up so that we can see this. And we have this nice set of data here from a course API, and this has a JSON file here that has a bunch of different data for tourism. So, and it's like the best of Paris in 7 days tour. It has an information about it, it has an image, and it has a price. Now, our goal for this is to utilize this API to grab the data and post it to a website for us. And what I would like to do is have it so that we can click a request form or a request button, and it will cycle through each of these. Like maybe we're looking at potential places that we want to go, and we have a website and we want to see which tour we want to take for our next trip. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Let's give it just a little bit of some basics here. We're going to have the best of as a title. We want to also have an image. Okay. We want to have a paragraph here that would have our information. We'll also have another paragraph here for the price. We want some sort of button, and maybe let's just have it be a normal button for now. And let's have it say something like request tour preview. And we can also have, let's also add in our SRC script here. And again, I have this in JS/JavaScript. Again, you guys can put it wherever you want. Now, a couple things that we need to do is we need to give these IDs because we need to be able to know where this is going to be in the JavaScript. Okay, so let's give this an ID here, and we'll call this tour name. And we will have this one be tour picture. This one here, we want this to be, let's have it tour info. And ID here will be tour price. And I think, oh, and we need it for the button here. And this one will be a class of a button. All right, so I think we have everything in here. And I just have this as a kind of a placeholder because whenever we look at this, it should be something nice for us kind of to see. All right, so now let's go on and get ready for our JavaScript. So the JavaScript itself, we're going to want to have a basic handling of the data. So let's go on and do that first, and we can add in functionality as we need. So first off, I'm going to create up a function named call. And it's not going to take any parameters at the moment. And again, we can have it maybe potentially take parameters later on. And we're going to do const request is equal to fetch. And we want to get a hold of our course API. We're going to put it right in there. And we're going to do then, and we're going to require some response. And in this response, we would have something like console log here, response, and then later on we would want it to return the response.json. Okay, and we can take a quick look and see what this does if we decide to go down here and actually call it. And here we see our request, and again here you can see that I misspelled stuff, but it says best of request, and it's supposed to be tour preview, and we can grab our inspection tool here, grab our console, and you can see here we have our response, and then it has some kind of information in here for us. Again, we can see here we're grabbing data from the course API website, and it would have some other information in there that we can grab a hold of. Now, as we've seen in some of our other videos, we actually want this to be able to do some other things as well. And so let me clean this really quickly before I forget. Oops. And we want to go on and use the data. Okay, so after this point here, we have a dot, then data, and we can do something like console log data here just to see what we have. Okay, so let's go on and take a look at that. If we refresh, oh, we didn't actually call it here. All right, and so now we see here we have our data available to us. Okay, now how we grab a hold of the data, we have our data, and we would want to be able to grab, for example, the name of the data. And here it's not defined because it's not inside of here. So, but if I did something, console log that, console log an example here, and we wanted to console log out the data.name. Okay, and here it's probably going to give us, it's going to give us another error here, and I will show you why here in just a second. Because again, it says undefined here, because if we look at, and I guess I should keep this up, in here and refresh, we see here that each of these, they're technically numbered, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, and it has a length of 5. So we actually need to do something like 1 to that data, okay, and that would grab 1, it would grab this object, and then we want to go down to name, and then name would be best of Paris in 7 days tour. So if we run this, now this should just put out that text. So if we refresh, best of Paris in 7 days tour. Okay, great. So now we would like to be able to put this information into our HTML file. And we know how to do this when we utilize the DOM. Okay, so we're going to be updating the website, and we're going to be using the data now parsed as a JSON file. All right, and it's going to select our elements by their IDs, and we want to upload their contents for specifically wanting the name, the image, the information, and the price. Okay, and we're going to want these to actually, we want to actually specify, we'll want to specify a width as well in the data. So let me comment this out, and let's do the first one. Okay, so we do document.query selector here, and the first one was I believe tour name, if I remember correctly, tour name. Okay, and then we want the text content is equal to, and here we are going to use the backtick operator, $, and we want data of 0 dot name. Okay, so we're grabbing out all of that information that we want, specifically name. And so if we go over now, and I widen this out and we refresh this, notice best of Paris in 7 days tour. Okay, so it grabbed that name that we needed. Now we need this for the picture. So, or the image, document dot query selector, and we want hashtag tour picture dot src. Okay, because this is, it is, if we look at the data here, okay, this is actually an HTML to a JPEG. Okay, and so we need to actually use the image src in here for our location. Otherwise, it's not going to work the way that we think it is. So again, our backticks, we have our data 0 dot, and I believe it was image. Okay, so now if we go back over to our tourism and refresh, whoa, okay. So now we have a picture of the Louvre. Now this, to be honest, is excessively large. Okay, it's taking up way too much of the screen, particularly if we want to have text there. So let's make this just a little bit smaller. So we're going to do document.query selector. We want to still grab the tour picture, but instead of src here, we're going to change the width, and maybe we'll make this 400 instead of whatever the standard image was. So let's refresh this and see. All right, and now that is actually a good size. And again, you can play with this width if you want to, depending on how big your pictures are. But I thought at least make it so that it's kind of digestible to someone and with your application. Now, the next thing that we want is to input some text. Document.query selector, and we do our tour info dot text content is equal to, and again we do our backtick $, data 0 dot, and I believe it was info. And let's go on and do the same thing for our price. Query selector, and it is tour price dot text content is equal to backticks $, data 0 dot price. Now let's take a look. Great. Okay, so now all of this information is in there. Now this doesn't, this $sign stuff, this price amount doesn't quite look pretty, but we can make that look pretty here in a little bit. But at least now everything is up and running. Okay, we fetched the data and everything else. Now we need to make sure though that this, well, eventually we want this to be attached to our button, okay? So it would actually grab a request whenever we click it, but we're not doing that right now. Now we're just having it run. Now what we would also like to do is to make sure that, well, that we catch any error handling, okay? So we need some error handling. So at the end of this, we're going to do dot catch, because what happens if, well, what happens if there is an error with our API, okay? So what happens, for example, if this happens, okay? Refresh. Here, notice we actually want to at least be able to catch the error, and maybe we want the error to kind of pop out. Maybe we want to console log the error, but we also put an alert saying, sorry, there was an error. Try again soon. Okay, so that if anything happens, people may know that, oh, there's an error, I'm sorry, and have them try again in a little bit. Maybe the server will be back up. So we can go on and fix this though. To course API, we can refresh this now. And notice there are no errors, but at least we have caught the error. Okay, so we want to log the error if there is an error, and we also want to have some sort of alert function saying, hey, pay attention, there was an error, but we're sorry, and we'll be right to fixing it. Or maybe you could also have this redirect them to another web page, to some other, for something else, okay? Now, a final step in here is usually the finally method, which executes regardless of the request's API outcome. And maybe we would use this just to log a message for now. So I could do finally here and, oops. Again, I'm just going to do a console log and just say nothing to see here. Okay, and this will, no matter what will happen, this is going to log here, but it's just a kind of I like to kind of keep it around just in case you have something that you also want to happen once all of this is done. Okay, and maybe this is just even just putting a text saying alert new tour found, and you can maybe just annoy them with it. Okay, so new tour found, and then they click on it and it opens. Okay, now I particularly don't like that, so I'm going to do that, but you could put in that type of code in here if you so chose. Now, the next thing that we want to do is be able to click and attach this button. Okay, so we have the button here, we have this button here, and it's not doing anything, right? As soon as we open up the page, it automatically loads, and no one actually requested this information, okay? So we want it so that this page is blank, and they click on this tour, okay? Tour request preview, and it'll pop up. And we want them to be able to pop up consistently throughout. So I think here we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tours, okay? But we want them to be able to click through each of those in turn to see them. But that button doesn't work. So let's do that. So we have const button is equal to document.query selector. And this is button. And we have our button.add event listener. We're listening for the click. And inside here, we're going to have a function, and it's going to call our function. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. Oops. Refresh. All right, oh, missing an argument here. What are we missing here? I don't think there should be anything missing. Click function. Oh, that's strange. All right, we're gonna run it anyways and see what happens here. Fresh tour. All right, so it is missing something. So let's just double check where we are missing our code at here. Oh, whoops. Okay, sorry. This actually goes. No, that should be right. Let's see here. We have our document button. We have, all right, let me just rewrite it just to be safe. button dot add event listener. We are listening for the click. We want the function to be here. We are calling the function. All right, good. Maybe it was the comma that I was missing there. All right, so now, let's refresh. And we click it and notice now it pops up. So let's refresh again. Notice it says best of, and we can click it. And so maybe we can say here instead, please click the button to start viewing tours or something, okay? Now, notice though, I click this again and we don't see any change here, okay? We want to be able to loop through. And that's because we hard-coded in this 0. So if we want to be able to loop through this, we need to be able to deal with a count, okay? So we can do that by putting in, I'm just going to put a new variable here called count. We're going to initialize it at 0. And this call now is going to actually take in a function. It's going to take an argument called count. And instead of these zeros, we need count for each of them. There, there, there. Okay, so now each of those are done. And then inside of this event listener, so for each time we have a click, we need to do count, okay, for each of them. So we can refresh, hit. Oh, there was an error, try again soon. Okay, so we came up with an error here. So error type properties reading name of 9. Okay, so line. So this is nice here because we saw, notice we saw an error here, right? Okay, before that wouldn't have happened. So let's see what happens when we go to line 9. Here, again, my guess is that it's not liking, I need to start you here. Let's take a look. Go, oh, here, right there. Okay, now let's give it a try. Refresh, touch. Oh, there was an error, line 15. All right, cannot read properties. All right, so let's find line. We have count 0. Oh, whoops, here, inside here, we did not call count. Okay, now let's refresh, let's run. All right, that works great. All right, I'm gonna close that. So now you can see it. Now let's hit it again. Here's a new one, good. This is the best of Ireland. A new one, Salzburg and Vienna, great. Another one, Rome. Another one again, Poland. Uh-oh, sorry, there was an error on the page. Please try back soon. Now, what happened here, okay, is that we ran out of places to go. Okay, and so if I look at the inspection tool here, and I go to my console, okay, so what happened is we ran out. Okay, so this is an error here. And again, I kind of put this in here purposefully because this count counter only goes up, okay? We need it to loop over once it gets to the end of the list. Okay, so we know that our list is what? I think there's 5 items, so it has 4, so we can do something like count is equal to count is less than 4, and we want to return plus count or 0. So what's happening here is that it will count up because we have the length is 5, okay, of our data. But that means that whenever we are inputting in our index here, it's 0 up to 4. Okay, so again, it's as long as it is less than 4, it'll go up to 4 and it'll break. So we should be fine here. If we see here that our last one is Poland, and let's give this a try now. Otherwise, it'll loop back over and it'll take you back to the beginning. So let's refresh. Here we have Paris. We have Ireland. We have Salzburg. We have Rome. We have Poland. And now, look at that. It takes us right back to Paris, okay? So now everything here is working correctly. You may want to take some time to make things look a little bit pretty and maybe give it some CSS styling. You may want to add in some more dynamic stuff. You may want to do anything, but this is at least a nice way to have functionality, grabbing API, dealing with that API and dealing with asynchronous JavaScript using fetch, then catch, finally. Okay. If you guys like this and you want more of this content, click subscribe and hit that like button. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.